Running. I said it's running. So it's running. Hopefully it's just oil. It's burning out of the exhaust because it had so many litres of oil go through it. So it hasn't had a decent run, but it seems to be alright. It didn't smoke when we initially started it up, so that's a good sign. Let's close the bonnet properly. Pull the burner around. Just make sure it's closed properly. And we'll go for a drive. There you go, guys. So as you can see, that all went good last night. I probably did 100 k's of travel in it, or a bit more, which is actually, no, it'd be more than that. Probably be 120, 130 k's. Went for a decent hot run in it. It probably took 60 k's of that to finally clear itself and come right. Stop blowing smoke just because there was so much oil in the exhaust. As I said, like when we had that plug in that drain pipe, it pumped a good three and a bit litres of oil through the back, through the intake side of it, plus out through the exhaust again. So I think it went both ways. It just, the oil was in the exhaust because we couldn't get the back part of the pipe off without having to cut it to try to get it around the suspension. We would have had to drop the back suspension out. It was just full of oil. So yeah, when we went for a drive last night, like it was a good, yeah, probably 50-60 k's with about 30 miles or 40 miles before it even cleared itself. Because what we did, we tootled out here and then we went back down one of the back sort of big sort of main roads with that, not a main drag, so there's a lot of cars on it. Yeah, and the road just disappeared when we put the foot down out the road. And yeah, it did that for ages. I had to keep basically slowing right down to almost sort of a stop, and then just nailed it to like 100 and sort of about 120 k's or thereabouts, or 60-70 miles an hour, and then right back down to zero again. And I did that quite a few times just to try and help it clear. But anyway, I'll turn the camera around and I want to talk about something else as well. Since Arco, I just seen Arco do a warning video. I've got a good one from yesterday. So yeah, yesterday, because I work for a tyre outfit that does a lot of big machinery tyres like tractors and agricultural gear, and we also do stuff for logging guys and everything, all that sort of stuff. But anyway, we had a client ring up yesterday and they wanted a couple of new rims, and we have a lot of second-hand tyres off. They're like high-speed tractor tyres that they use on trucks here for spreading fertiliser up in the hills. They've got like these big tractor grips on them, so when they get fairly worn, they pull them off. And my boss, he goes around and buys a lot of them because then a lot of guys use them for big heavy ag trailers and stuff like that, because they'll take a lot of weight and they don't sink into the ground if the ground's a bit soft. Not so easy anyway. So this guy wanted a couple of these wheels and tyres, so I picked them off and dropped them off to him because he had he damaged a wheel and crushed the back of the wheel, and so bad that I couldn't get it off. They had to cut it off with a gas torch. So anyway, I dropped them off, went back to work, and he turned up to work about an hour later. He was probably lucky he wasn't dead. Him and his mate, what they did is they actually welded a bit of like U-shaped steel around the valve to protect it from in the bush and all the shit. But what they didn't do is let the air out of the tyre. And what I'll do is I'll link a video to this little clip. It's a couple of minutes long. Of what happens when you weld on a rim that's got a tyre on it that's got air in it. It's just, don't do it, because you'd be a dead man. It's basically, you may as well just jump in front of a bus. It's pretty much that. Because what happens is, once you do a decent weld, because that would have taken a fairly good hot weld to weld that on there. So what happens is it just superheats the moisture in the air. It just turns to steam. And what happens was, you might weld that on, it'll be fine. But a minute later, basically what happens is, that tyre had about 60 psi on it. So what happens is, once the heat gets into the moisture in the air, it just accelerates the air pressure. So that tyre, when it exploded, could have been 300 psi. Like, that's what happens in this video. Basically, they got a truck rim lying on the ground, and it's got a they set up a rig, like an electronic rig to weld a patch on a tyre on a wheel. And yeah, like it does, I don't know, probably a 20-second weld on a rim, and then it lifts away, and it's got a time lapse, and it just shows the heat build up in that wheel and the air pressure come up, and it just, the gauge just goes off the scale, like past 200 psi, and then it just goes back around to the needle and stops, and it just boof, and just explodes. So yeah, just don't ever weld on a wheel that's got a tyre on it and it's full of air, because it's just a time bomb. You may as well just put on a grenade and stand on it, pretty much. So yeah, like a good warning, just don't ever do it, because it's dangerous. That's one of the first things I got taught years ago, with wheels, like doing this sort of stuff, because you quite often you might get a rim and that's got a crack in it, and basically they say, like, oh, the wheel's got a crack in it, can you guys weld it up or whatever? And we just say, no, we'll strip it off, take away to an engineer, get them to weld it up. Whereas a lot of people, like on a farm or something like that, will, the wheel's got a crack in it, and they'll clean it up and grind it up and put a weld in it. They don't think to take the air out of the tyre, like, even though it might be going down, but they might have pumped it up, and they can tell, they might spray a bit of water on it. Oh, you can see the crack in it, so they'll grind it out and then weld it up. Don't think to take the air out of the tyre, and next thing they're dead. So yeah, it's one of those things. Be bloody careful, don't ever do it. Yeah, it's a tyre like this on a like a big heavy duty steel rim.